Most nightmares begin in obvious places: abandoned houses, dark forests, places we already fear. But the most terrifying ones start somewhere familiar, somewhere safe. Bedroom, quiet street, a late-night drive home. Tonight's stories didn't begin with screams or shadows. They began as ordinary nights, uneventful, forgettable, routine, until something happened that rewrote the meaning of fear for the people who lived through it. These are 3 true horror encounters where nothing felt wrong, until it was already too late. It was just after midnight when Sarah finally turned off the light. Her apartment was small: 1 bedroom, a narrow hallway, and a ceiling so thin she could hear her upstairs neighbor sneeze. The building was old, but it was cheap, and that mattered more than comfort. That night felt normal. Too normal. She lay in bed scrolling on her phone, listening to the rain tap softly against the window. Around 12:17 a.m., she heard the familiar sound of footsteps above her. Slow, heavy pacing from the apartment directly overhead. She didn't think much of it. Her neighbor worked night shifts. But after 10 minutes, the pacing didn't stop. The footsteps moved from one side of the apartment to the other, back and forth, again and again. No music, no voices, just walking. At 12:34, the footsteps stopped abruptly. Then something new began. Soft dragging sound, like furniture being pulled across the floor. Sarah sat up in bed listening. The dragging moved directly above her bedroom. She checked the time again. 12:41. Then came the sound that made her stomach tighten. Scratching. Slow, deliberate scratching. Right above her ceiling. She texted her neighbor upstairs. "Hey, everything okay? Kinda loud up there." No response. The scratching continued for nearly 10 minutes before stopping without warning. The silence felt heavier than the noise. At 1:02 a.m., her phone buzzed. It wasn't her neighbor. It was the landlord. "Hey Sarah, just saw your message history. There's no one living in the apartment above you." Her chest tightened. She replied immediately, hands shaking. "What do you mean? I hear someone walking. Right now." The response came slower this time. "That unit has been vacant for 6 months. The ceiling access was sealed last winter." As if on cue, something thudded directly above her bed. Not footsteps, not dragging. Single heavy impact. Then, quietly, scratching began again. But this time, it wasn't coming from the ceiling. It was coming from inside her bedroom wall. Sarah ran. She didn't stop until she reached her car, barefoot in the rain. When police searched the apartment above the next morning, they found nothing. No furniture. No signs of entry. But inside the wall above her bed, they found long, shallow grooves carved into the wood, as if something had been trying to get through. David had driven that road 100 times. A narrow 2-lane stretch that cut through farmland, empty at night, quiet enough that you could hear your own tires on the pavement. It was the fastest way home after his late shift. That night, the radio cut out halfway down the road. Just static. He reached to adjust the dial when his headlights caught something ahead. Man. Standing perfectly still in the middle of the road. David slammed the brakes. The car skidded to a stop less than 10 feet away. The man didn't move. He wore dark clothes. No jacket. No hat. His arms hung loosely at his sides, head tilted downward. David rolled down his window slightly. "Hey, are you okay?" No response. The man slowly lifted his head. His face was pale, too pale. His eyes were open wide, unblinking, reflecting the headlights like glass. Then he smiled. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't human. David's instincts screamed at him to leave. He shifted into reverse, but the car stalled. The headlights flickered. The man took one step forward. Then another. David turned the key again. Nothing. The man was close enough now that David could see his mouth moving. Not speaking. Whispering. Over and over. Finally, the engine roared back to life. David floored it straight through the man. There was no impact, no sound, no resistance. The road behind him was empty. He didn't stop driving until he reached town. The next morning, shaken and exhausted, David searched the local news. 3 years earlier on that same road, a man had been struck and killed during a power outage. Witnesses described him as standing still, smiling. David never took that road again. But some nights when the radio goes quiet, he swears he can still hear whispering beneath the static. Emily was home alone for the first time in months. Her husband was away on business, and the house felt strangely large without him. Still, it was comforting. Locked doors, familiar creaks, the hum of appliances. She spent the evening watching TV and eventually fell asleep on the couch. She woke up to a sound. A door closing. Not slamming. Gently. She checked her phone. 2:11 a.m. Her heart raced as she listened. A step. Bare feet on hardwood. Low. Careful. She whispered her husband's name before remembering he wasn't home. The footsteps stopped outside the living room. Emily held her breath. A shadow passed across the doorway. Someone was standing there. She grabbed her phone, pretending to still be asleep. The shadow leaned forward. She smelled perfume. Familiar perfume. Her sister's. "Em." A soft voice whispered. Relief washed over her. "What are you doing here?" No answer. The shadow stepped back into the hallway. Emily stood, confused, and followed. The hallway was empty. Her phone buzzed. A message from her sister. "Just landed. I'll come see you tomorrow." Emily froze. From the bedroom, a door creaked open. Ran. Police arrived within minutes. They found no signs of forced entry. But in the guest room closet, they found damp footprints. And on the inside of the closet door, written in lipstick, were 3 words. "You heard me." Emily moved out 2 weeks later. She never slept in that house again.